Hi guys, this is Mary. In today's video, we're going to go through all my favorite fantasy / historical mangas. To give you a bit of context, I started reading manga a while back. It must have been at least 15 years since I started reading mangas. I have been reading a lot of different mangas and I've been watching animes too for all this time. And since I've put so much time and energy in those, I thought why not make a video with recommendation that could help you guys get into them if you ever want to pick one up. This is going to be a series. There are going to be separate videos for separate themes, and today's theme is going to be fantasy and historical fiction. I mix them together because often I find that those I've read have either really fantastical themes to them, or if they're historical fiction, they still have sprinkles of fantasy in them. I don't think I've read that many pure historical fiction mangas with no fantasy in them. And that just happens to be my reading taste. In the next couple of videos, we will be talking about romance, we will be talking about more contemporary, we'll be talking about animes at last that are my favorites. So without further ado, let's get right in. The first one I want to recommend is a manga that has a lot of importance to me, mainly because of nostalgia. So here's the thing. I feel like for most people, the first couple of mangas or anime you get really attached on, or the first one you've watched, and after that, in your head at least, those have such a special place because of nostalgia. There might not be the most compelling plot-wise or character-wise, but they were the first one you've watched, so they just have that top spot for you. So the first one I want to talk about is Naruto. Naruto is the first manga I ever read, and I was hooked at the first volume. And I would just recommend it to anybody that wants to get into manga because it got me into it pretty quickly. So what's Naruto about? Naruto is set in a fantasy world where there are different ninja villages, and the person that's ruling the ninja village is called the Hokage. And we're following basically Naruto, which is a child that has no parents, and he's kind of outcasted by society. So we're following Naruto, who has the big dream of being a Hokage, and he keeps yelling it across every roof basically. And we're following him and a group of characters as they go older and as they go through ninja school and eventually other things. So it's a pretty long series, but it's not the longest you'll find. I mean, it's completed right now. It's over. There are some following series that are now ongoing that I'm personally not into. I only like the core material, and I would recommend it. If you like it, maybe you'll want to read whatever's up after that. This has such impact on me nostalgia wise because I will always remember Naruto as that hard-working little kid that was not understood by everybody, and I feel like anyone can relate to that, and the fact of being annoying from time to time to other people. So I would definitely recommend it. It's done, it's completed. There's 80 volumes. You could get through it in a week if you wanted to and you were motivated, but I think that it's a fantastic manga to go through, and the perks of reading it instead of watching it is there is no filler in the mangas, which it was my personal complaint in the anime. There was so much fillers that I don't care about. Well, there's none in there. So for me, this is better because you really get the core story with no filler. So yeah, Naruto is the first manga I've ever read. It has impacted me so much in my life. I know it's not perfect. One of my complaints is that Masashi Kishimoto isn't the best author at writing female characters. It's one of the big complaints I have about it. And otherwise, I think you should try it. And if it's for you, well, I'm happy. And if it's not, well, I have other suggestions. The second manga I've read is also an all-time favorite, and that is Rurouni Kenshin. So Rurouni Kenshin is the story of Kenshin Himura, which is a ex-samurai, because the story is taking place in the time period where samurai were no longer allowed in Japan. And he was extremely good at what he did, but he promised himself that he will never kill again, and he's using a reverted sword. So basically it means that the part where you hit on the sword is not cutting. It can hurt for sure, but it will not cut you. And he has that sword because he promised himself that he will never kill again. And we're following him as he goes through the story, and we are slowly but surely uncovering his past that he doesn't want to talk about. And I like this so much. I think that this manga in particular set up the tone for me liking any samurai related either mangas or animes. I also have a big passion in my heart for 90s and 80s animes, which I know not everybody likes because the animation was not as perfect as it is today, although there are some that are gorgeous, very good. It's 28 volumes, it's not that long, and if you ever like the mangas, there's an anime too. The thing I don't like as much about the anime is that this manga has mainly two arcs. There's the first arc where there's a main antagonist, and then there's the second arc where there's another antagonist, and it's in the second arc that we uncover Kenshin Imura's past. And it was not incorporated in the anime, but it was in films though. So just keep that in mind. I think that if you choose the anime, you might lose some really good details about the story that you get in the manga. So the next one, I think a lot of booktubers already know about it, and it's Fullmetal Alchemist. Fullmetal Alchemist is a pretty damn good manga. In it, we're following the Ulrich brothers as they are going through the world being alchemists. Being alchemist means that you can create things, but not unless you give something that's the same word. So you have to make sacrifice to gain something in return. And we're following those alchemists as they go through XYZ type of mysteries. I don't want to say much because if you go into it blind, like, it's going to blow your mind at the end. It's very good. It's one of those mangas that has a clear beginning, middle part, and an end, which doesn't happen all the time because the way mangas are made, they are published in magazines, and when they are seen as commercially successful, sometimes the house will push the mangaka to continue, even though, like, you can see that it could have ended like 50 volumes ago. Not talking about you, Bleach. I'm still pissed about that one. If you didn't know, Bleach had a clear ending, and it was supposed to end, and the magazine pushed the mangaka to continue. And once he took that story back, didn't like it, didn't care for it. I was kind of sad that, for me, in my mind, it ends where it ended the first time, and the rest doesn't exist. So that's me complaining and being a bit mad about it, but. Anywho, just to say that this doesn't happen with this one, which is great. And another thing is great is that Hiromu Arakawa is a woman. You've probably seen a lot of people try it and love it. It's very good. I think you should give it a try if you're just wondering what it's about. I think it's a good manga to start up with. It has similar vibes than Naruto. This one is shorter though, so I think that it could be a good one to make a first attempt at mangas. The next one, I think, is getting a lot of buzz right now because of the last season of the animes that was put out just recently, and that is Attack on Titan. This manga might be a bit overhyped, but I personally still really like it. This one is very original because of the antagonist. I have never read something similar to that. Yeah, in shonen you're going to say, but I think that this one is just sorting out of the crew for me. We're following Eren Yeager as he's living in a society where there are titans. Titans are basically like big zombies, and they're huge. They're titans, and people are living in this city which has walls. And the further you get inside the city, the more walls there is that separate the people and the monster outside. So basically the people who lives on the outskirts of the city are the ones that are most at risk of being attacked by titans if the walls fall down, because there's nothing else separating them, and high society is in the middle, the most protected. And we're following Eren and his friends as they are getting into the school, which is a military school where people are fighting against them, and it's a super dangerous job. And what I like about it does not shy away of making hard decisions and making some heartbreaking moments. If you ever decide to go and watch the anime, this is one of the animes that has the most beautiful animation you'll see. One of them, for sure. Those shots of people spiraling around the city, around the titans, are just gorgeous. So yeah, everything in that is pretty fun, super imaginative. The antagonists, the titans, are there's a lot of twists and turns, a lot of mystery to uncover, and even like the I don't know if you can see it, but the swords that they are using is so creative, and the devices they use to kind of jump around. I've read that the mangaka actually talked with one. I think he's either a friend or someone he knows who's in engineering, to do something that would actually make sense. So I like what you're thinking, making it more realistic in your fantasy world. I love it. So yeah, this is very dark though, so trigger warning for a lot of things. Go check them out if you think that you could be triggered by something, because it is pretty dark. So, but I really like it. It's very good. Talking about a dark manga, there's another dark one that I really like, and that one is Berserk. Berserk is still ongoing. It's not finished yet, but still such a good one. We're following Gus, that is a man carrying a sword bigger than him. He has an artificial arm, very mysterious, and he has a dark past. And it's set in a fantasy world, a bit more similar to Game of Thrones than, yeah, it's kind of inspired by Eastern fairy tale culture, I'd say. This is very dark, a lot of trigger warnings. There are some scenes in it that I do not agree with, but are still there. The anime, the old anime, one of my faves. I just said it beforehand, but 19 and 80s anime, just, they have that place in my heart for me. Even though I wasn't even watching animes at that time, I don't care. They are special to me. Yeah, so this one, go in with caution, very dark. One thing that the mangaka has been praised about, and I think is so true, is his attention to detail. Like, the pictures are amazing. The problem with that is that he is so freaking slow to draw his manga that chapters are coming in very slowly. It's not one that is completed, and I don't think it will be completed anytime soon. So if you get into that, just be cautious that you have to be patient with that one. Either way, very good, loved it, would recommend. After that, and under manga, I would recommend, I loved it. I just have a lot of good things to say about it. As I said, again in the 80s, 90s vibe, and that's Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. This is so good. So what is this about? This is a multi-generational story where we're following different descendants of the same family line that are the Jojos. Why are they called Jojos? Because the first name of the person is always Joe something, and his last name is always Joe something. Jojos. And the first Jojo is Jonathan Joestar. We're following him in ancient London as his father rescued a mysterious guy that just lost his father. The thing is, a rivalry that will cross generations will start at that moment. Where this is very hard to describe, because I don't want to give too much away, because I think that's what make it fun, but it is bizarre. So I feel like it might not be the best first manga to pick up, but I don't know if I would have liked that much if I read it before I've read all the things that I've read up to the point I picked that one up. But if you've read a couple of mangas and don't know about this one, well, I do recommend you pick it up. The anime is still ongoing. I think it's pretty popular. I've watched most of it and loved it, so I would recommend going into it. I do have to say though that there, yeah, like the misogyny and like this is not the best manga again for female characters. That is the main issue I have about it, and that sucks because I love everything else about it. But the female characters, not always, you know, best representation and the best. He has one of his characters that which is a big, he's a big macho. I can't stand him, but yeah, I mean, make up your mind for your own. Pick it up. So the next one I wanted to talk about is Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles. This one right here. This is by the same author that did Cardcaptor Sakura that you might know about, and he also did another one that's called XXX Holic.
Hi guys, this is Editing Mary coming up. Just to clarify that I kept saying he while I was talking about the other clamp of the mangas I was talking about, but in fact, clamp is a regroupment of women that were reading mangas together, and I thought that this was so cool that we had a group of women coming up together to create such impactful piece of
So
work.
I
So
read
just wanted to
Tsubasa when I
clarify
was in
that
high
and
school and
tell you a
loved
bit
it.
more about
So
them.
this is a fantasy manga where we're following a cast of characters as they're going through some mysteries. I don't want to say too much again because I think that this is the kind that is better if you know anything. The art style is super pretty. The story is super easy to get into. It's one of the first mangas I've read also, like in the first tense. I think that this is a good one to start up with if you like fantasy, if you like parallel worlds, if you like mysteries a bit. This one is very good. It's more lighthearted than a lot of the other ones, but still has some dark topics that are titled in. Look at the trigger warnings. For most of the mangas I've talked about, they are some in everyone. So just look at them before you go into to them. But this one I think is pretty accessible. And it's super cute and it has some great characters, some great relationships. Would recommend. So that's it, guys. Those were all my favorite fantasy slash historical mangas. Comment down below if you've read any of these, if you think that there's some that I should read and add to my list. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one next week. Bye.